Tales from the Top Flight.
Hey! Okay, let's get Chris Darwin up on our screens to tell us about the Tales from the Top Flight. Chris, did you hear my punnerful intro to you?
I did, yes. Yes. Well done.
Whatever, Chris. Oh, whatever. Okay.
Thank you for setting the bar high for this evening.
I thought I'd go with that. Okay, where shall we start? Well, there is one heck of a derby happening in London this weekend. So tell us about Arsenal and Spurs.
Yeah, well, I think Arsenal used up all the entertainment tokens on Tuesday night, leaving Spurs with 0 for their own sort of pleasure, didn't they? I mean, Spurs put in the sort of performance wearing white at Wembley that we're quite used to watching the national side. Sanchez has had an interesting week. I mean, I know when he was at Barcelona, he wanted to copy absolutely everything that Messi did, but maybe copying his tax forms as well was probably a little bit on the dodgy side. So, no, I mean, credit to Mesut Ozil, though. He's I was on a couple of weeks ago sort of calling him out for only scoring goals when it really mattered, 3-0 up against the Bulgarian team. But he actually did score a goal when it really mattered against the Bulgarian team in the week. And what a goal it was. He's apparently now got 200 assists in his career. If you tell him that stat, his eyes will probably pop out.
What a goal it was. I mean, he was fanning around and should have scored a lot earlier, but that was a spectacular goal.
If you're gonna do that, do it that way. What a beautiful goal. I mean, being the age that I am, I can remember Gaza sticking Colin Hendry on his backside at Wembley, sticking 2 of them on his backside, doing that. Great goal.
Okay, now Swansea Man United. Well, what on earth is happening at Manchester United at the moment?
Well, you've got to question how low Wayne Rooney's career has got if a consolation goal in the Europa League away in Fenerbahce in a match where your manager couldn't even really care about winning is potentially the spark to your season. To be fair, though, it wasn't all bad for United. Pogba did get injured, so a few ups there. Just as Jose gives with one hand to Schweinsteiger, he takes with the other, brings him back into the fold, and then in the media the next day goes, he's only training with us so we can sell him, lads. Don't get too excited. I thought that was a little bit harsh on Schweinsteiger, who, to be fair, could probably do as equally bad job as most of the United midfielders at the moment. So why not give him a go? Sky's Premier predictor has said United have got a 1% chance of winning the league and are more likely to get relegated this season. But then this is Sky, who still think that Victor Moses is an England international. So yeah. But moving on to Swansea. It's looking up for Swansea because they're monitoring the movements of Berbatov. If you remember Berbatov, I doubt they've got to monitor him too closely, his movements, because unless he's really sort of upped his work rate, he'll probably be loitering around the centre circle somewhere looking quite pretty. So he's exactly what they need to bring into a relegation scrap is Berbatov. I mean, he was rarely up for a Champions League game, let alone a game up at Sunderland when they need to win those 6 points.
I think that is a fair point. Okay, Bournemouth, Sunderland. Bournemouth have a ton of events last week that really made a lot of Bournemouth fans very disappointed.
Well, I was thinking more about Jack Wilshere this week, really. I mean, I know very little about football, but even less about insuring footballers. But I'm pretty sure that the policy that either Arsenal or Bournemouth have had to take out on this lad is quite sizable. I mean, the guy is absolutely injury prone, so I would imagine that the policy is quite big. And normally in these contracts, I think there's a few do's and don'ts, like riding a motorbike or things like that. Probably paddleboarding in the Channel Sea might figure on it as well. So not the wisest move from Jack, who also managed to offend both Bournemouth and England in one fell swoop last week by saying Eddie Howe was good enough to manage a big club, and if not that, England. So, yeah, delivered by Wilshere. What else have we got on Bournemouth? Oh, yeah, David Moyes. David Moyes admitted during the week that he often spends dark, lonely nights mulling over yet another Sunderland defeat in a darkened room. I thought that was brilliant, but you can look at it one of two ways. Firstly, OK, fair enough, you can understand it. But secondly, a darkened room at night, surely that's called sleeping, David.
Listen, nobody's going to question what David Moyes is up to because he's probably going to be doing a lot of sitting in a dark room with no lights next week. OK, City against Middlesbrough.
Yeah, I mean, City obviously had a fantastic week, didn't they? Every time it gets a little bit worse for Jose, it gets a little bit better for Pep. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne scored a fantastic free kick in the win against Barcelona, and that's one of the few Belgian midfielders that, the only Belgian midfielder Jose seems to rate is Feliani. Yet he didn't seem to get on too well with Hazard and De Bruyne. What can you do if you're Jose? Yaya's got a little bit bored of not playing football. He's come out and apologised for everyone who's ever spoken on his behalf in the hope of maybe getting into Pep's team sometime in the near future. He'll probably be joining Schweinsteiger on a plane out to China or something in January. And Vincent Kompany's been called up to the Belgium squad, much to Pep's disappointment. He says he's not ready to do any defending. I don't know if Pep's actually seen any Bobby Martinez's team play, but they rarely do any defending, so Vincent should be okay. Brilliant.
Okay, and lastly, careful how you go, because we've got a West Ham fan on the sofa. Talk to us about Andy Carroll.
Well, I thought that story was absolutely brilliant. Andy Carroll chased down after training at gunpoint. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Andy Carroll was training.
That's exactly what we said earlier.
I mean, that's the real news in this story. I mean, if he managed to show that turn of pace on the pitch that he managed to show the robber, then they might not be worrying so much about Zaza. So no, it's great to see Andy Carroll actually reminding us that he does play a bit of football from time to time.
Exactly what we said. Chris, you've been fantastic as always. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us your tales from the top.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye.
Tales from the top flight.